trying to promote an annual National Day of Doing Good that celebrates and strengthens the spirit of volunteer service. Whereas volunteer service is an investment in the future we all must share. Therefore, I, John Brown, Mayor of the City of McAlester, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim October 26, 2019 as Make a Difference Day in McAlester, Oklahoma, and urge my fellow citizens to observe this day by connecting with friends, fellow employees, relatives, with religious, school, and civic groups to engage in projects benefiting the community. All right, so where'd he go? There he is. Come on up. I think you should come down and be in this picture too, because you're the one that started this whole thing.
I agree.
Yeah, so come on down.
All right. Thank you. This is my kid too. We don't look alike, but he's one of my kids.
One more for me, guys. Trying to get Travis out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. You all have a good day. You as well.
Proud of you.
Finish the rest of the day.
Thanks. It's very kind of you.
Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, we did.
Okay, we're up to citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Residents may address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda. Residents must provide their name and address. Council requests that comments be limited to 5 minutes. I do have 4 signups. I think you guys are wanting to address the actual agenda item. Is that correct? On Dolores and Rowena. Chair Landrum, are you wanting to address the agenda item?
I thought it was a sign, sorry.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, so we'll get to you guys on the agenda item then. In that case, we'll move to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. I'm gonna give it a shot. I can't. Killing me. The agenda tonight consists of A, approval of the minutes from the September 24th, 2019 regular meeting of the McAlester City Council. B, approval of claims for September 18th through October 1st, 2019. Consider an act upon authorizing the mayor to sign the renewal of the lease with the Federal Aviation Administration for the equipment located at the McAlester Regional Airport. B, consider an act upon ratification of change order number 3 for Built Right Construction LLC in the amount of $17,140 for the downtown streetscape project. This change order adds 1 day to the substantial completion date, amending it from November 14th to November 15th, 2019. Consider an act upon authorizing the mayor to sign the Sales and Use Tax Administration Agreement recently agreed upon between Oklahoma Tax Commission and the Oklahoma Municipal League Liaison Board. This agreement replaces the current separate sales and use tax agreements. Consider an act upon receipt of permit number SL 00006111900713 from the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality for the construction of 395 linear feet of PVC sanitary sewer line and all appurtenances at 5th Street in Miami. Would anyone like anything removed? In that case, I take a motion and a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Reed, second, Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to public hearing. Any person interested in any ordinance listed under scheduled business shall have an opportunity to be heard in accordance with Article 2, Section 212B of the city charter. There are 2 tonight. The first is an ordinance amending the general zoning ordinance and accompanying map thereto, known as General Zoning Ordinance Number 1843 from 1989, by changing the classification of the zoning district for the southerly 135 feet of Lot 6 in Block 294, City of McAlester, formerly known as South McAlester, Pittsburgh County, State of Oklahoma, from C2 Neighborhood Convenience District to C4 Restricted Commercial District. The second is an ordinance of the City of McAlester, Oklahoma, amending ordinance number 2656, which established the budget for fiscal year 2019-20, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for a severability clause, and declaring an emergency. Take a motion and a second to open it. Motion to Councilman Reed, second Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, so we're now in the public hearing. If anyone would like to address either of these issues, step forward. See,
Is this pertaining to?
agenda, you guys want to be on the agenda item when we actually discuss the agenda item? I mean, you can do either one. It's this, at this point, it's about the same thing. Okay, seeing no one, I take a motion and second to close the public hearing. Motion Councilman Reed, second Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 1. Consider and act upon acceptance of the master drainage plan by Mishak and Associates, authorizing the mayor to sign a resolution for the adoption of a stormwater master drainage plan. Mr. Skimbo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Oliver Skimbo. I'm the Environmental Programs Coordinator for the City of McAlester. Tonight, for your consideration and adoption, I have the Master Drainage Plan. It was began 10 years ago with Mr. Cliff Pittner, my predecessor, in a partnership with Mishak and Associates. Tonight, they have a short presentation to go over pretty much the whole plan. You may recognize Brandon. He's been involved with the city for over 10 years also. And we have Kyle here for the presentation.
You doing the PowerPoint? Is that a PowerPoint?
Yes. Well, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Kyle Miller. I was the project engineer on this master drainage plan, and with me tonight is Brandon Claiborne, the CEO of Mishak and Associates. He was the principal engineer. I want to start off tonight talking about flooding. Floods can be very devastating to a city if the city does not design and plan for them. Floods can create a large amount of damage costs to both public and private infrastructure. Floods also pose a risk to loss of life for residents and emergency responders. Over the last 10 years, McAlester has been discussing creating a citywide master drainage plan with Cliff Pittner as being a large supporter, as previously stated. And in 2017, Mishak was contracted to create a stormwater master drainage plan for the city of McAlester. So what is the purpose of an MDP? The MDP will help the city identify its current flooding problems across the city, and it will help the city determine how to solve those problems. In doing so, the city will be able to prevent future flooding problems by correcting some of those issues, the underlying issues. So if we go over about 3 key principles, this MDP should serve as a guide for future planning. One will be you will have a list of infrastructure improvements that need to be made that can be paired with other infrastructure improvements throughout the city. It also serves as a hazard mitigation plan. Currently, the city does not have an approved hazard mitigation plan, although a shared hazard mitigation plan is currently in the update process with the county. But once that is in place, some of these projects can be listed in that hazard mitigation plan to allow for the city to receive assistance funding from the federal government. Some another major point is that the master drainage plan will serve as a design aid for the city and developers. Should the city want to develop any infrastructure, or if a new plot of land is coming in for commercial or residential development, the MDP gives them a quick set of models to work off to throw the proposed site design and determine its effects, whether they're positive or negative. The city also has some other things they can do with the plan. It helps a lot with disaster planning, flood risk assessment, and emergency response. And lastly, just to reiterate that this plan is supposed to help you prevent some of your future flooding problems. You have to go in and ID some of the underlying keys of why you have flooding now, and once you key those in, you can begin to eliminate those, and should any development occur in the future, it should not have any issues. So, master drainage planning as an overview. What are we going to do? One of the first things we come in to do is we create a hydraulic model. Basically, this just allows us to determine the amount of water at a given location, and we were able to do this across the city. The second thing is we create a hydraulic model. This allows us to determine water depths and velocities at various points that we study. We also identify flood problem areas. Given those flooding problem areas, we create recommendations and also give you a general cost estimate. These are the major watersheds that were studied during the project. Many of you may or may not know that the city drains to 4 different directions. The first being Sandy Creek there in the green is the south part of town and downtown. Extending all the way up to the prison, drains to the west towards the softball fields. Mud Creek there in the yellow in the northeast is the north part of town, draining out to the northeast. We have tributary A along the US 69 commercial corridor there in the southeast, and Dancing Rabbit Creek watershed at the very southern end that drains towards the airport. The entire MDP process was applied to each of these watersheds. And that process includes obtaining city and public input. On May 2017, we held a public meeting here in the city of McAlester and received some input from the public regarding where the flooding problems are. They helped us identify some areas because the local residents here and the city staff would know a lot more than Mishek would at where your flooding problems are. Knowing those locations, we then moved to develop all of our hydrology and hydraulic models, as I kind of discussed previously. We take those models and then we begin to evaluate these flooding problem areas that were given to us. We create alternatives. From these alternatives, we work with the city to determine what the recommended solution would be. We generate cost estimates for those recommended alternatives. And then we also work with the city to organize these recommended alternatives into a prioritization plan so that the city has a list of problem areas that give them some general guideline order. And at the very end, we bundle this all up into a report, and I believe you have been able to read through the report, if not most of it. It's quite lengthy, but it goes over each individual location with the recommendations, cost estimates, that prioritization list, as I discussed. It also gives the city updated floodplain maps and flood profiles that are equal to what you would find in your FIS for the county. Some of the results of the MDP. So one of the things I wanted to give you was a short 3-page summary of overall stormwater program recommendations. That's at the very front of the report. It's just used as a short 3-page cheat sheet, you might say. But it included 4 major items that will help the city make a significant impact to reduce its flooding. The first is performing infrastructure maintenance on your existing systems. And Oliver has been able to go ahead and implement some of those maintenance maintenance practices in removing a lot of debris and sediment from many of the stormwater systems. It is also recommended that the city create a drainage criteria manual by ordinance. This is going to help with future design that forces development to follow modern engineering standards in stormwater design. I also recommended that the city begin to restore some of the overbank floodplain storage area. A lot of that was lost to development. And if we circle back around to the prioritization list that we created from those proposed alternatives, the city has this defined list of infrastructure projects for stormwater that it should utilize to solve many of its existing flooding problems. And lastly, if we go into more detail of the prioritization list, we ended up generating 27 stormwater projects, close to $25 million total. And the recommendations vary from anything from detention ponds to storm sewer systems, some larger systems, some smaller. And again, one of the final things is that we were able to update your floodplain maps and flood profiles to allow the city to assess flood risk, to allow the city to plan for any types of flooding, and to allow for future development. So next I wanted to step through just a couple of the MDP projects that came from this. The first is a flooding problem we had at 8th and Cherokee, that there was some flooding in the street. In reviewing the hydrology here in hydraulics, we determined that the storm sewer system that runs down 8th Street towards tributary D was a little undersized, meaning most of the water would have to travel down the street or remain or inundate the street. So one thing we looked at was, can we just replace the storm sewer system? That's a complete possibility, something you could do even if you decided to replace the street. Another alternative we looked at was that we found an easement just north of there where the city had the easement. And so what we could do here is we could create an incised detention pond, store and detain some of that water, and then use the existing storm sewer system without having to replace it. Another project that we've been in discussion with the city is Northwest Street Culvert over by the prison. The culvert had a failure. It clogged or caved in. As you can see in the upper right-hand picture, the cave section was dug out, and just so that the culvert, the remaining culvert, could be functional. But when this caved in, there happened to be a large rainstorm and caused a couple structures upstream to flood. So the solution is we're going to look at trying to replace this. One of the great things about the MDP is we already have flow rates to this area, and we already have some hydraulics ready for it. So a little bit of our work is already done. In preparing for the culvert replacement, we would want to review some sizes for a new culvert. Maybe we can enlarge a little bit, send a little bit more out, but we want to be able to review those effects, and the MDP, all the models would allow us to do that. So with this MDP, the city of McAlester has taken another step and a longer path to reducing flood risk and giving the city more resilience against flooding. I would say that the first step was implementing your stormwater utility fee that allows you to pay for your water quality program and some of your stormwater infrastructure. Your goal should be to reach a point where a flood has almost no impact on the city and your residents. I'd really like you to imagine a flood that results in no casualties or causes no damage to structures. Something like this can make the city more resilient and sustainable and prosperous. And MUSEC wants to help McAlester achieve that ideal flood scenario. Our company's stated purpose is that communities need trusted partners to safeguard today and build a stronger tomorrow. And we're really excited to partner with the city of McAlester to help you achieve your goals. Lastly, McAlester Stormwater Management staff, with David Hornick and Oliver Skimbo, will require the support and backing of this city council in order to be able to implement the recommendations given in this MDP. Thank you.
Any, any questions, comments? Councilwoman Harrison?
Oh, all right, I've got a few questions. First of all, thank you for the in-depth work that you've done and your the people that partnered with you. Could you explain to me what a detention pond is?
Yes, ma'am. A detention pond serves as a way to detain water so that you can slowly let it out over time. It's a way to reduce the amount of volume maybe you send down to, let's say, a channel. So in that instance that I had up there, we had a detention pond north of that storm sewer system. That storm sewer system led directly to one of your concrete channels. So in detaining that water there and allowing the water to just sit and pond and slowly come out, it reduces the total volume that gets down to the channel at one time.
Does this involve the correctional facilities that are on Northwest Street, because you have the penitentiary, Jackie Brannon, the sheriff's office? Does that impact them anyway?
The property was included as part of our study because we have to study the entire area that contributes water to the city limits. We did not in any way directly work with any of the prison officials. They may have their own flooding problems, but we did not assess any of theirs.
Okay. Even though they're on Northwest Street, you didn't need to do that.
If we do any more work on that West Street culvert project, we will need to work with the prison in order to accomplish that project.
Oh, okay. Now, how does that work?
That is something we're currently trying to solve.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. And then the other thing, are there any health concerns when there's flooding? Have we had any issues with that in McAlester?
There are health concerns with flooding.
Like mosquitoes? Or what?
It is possible. Because the flooding sometimes will give a big flush, I don't see an issue with too much with mosquitoes.
Okay.
If it floods here in McAlester, it's going to rise and fall fairly quickly, as opposed to what you may have seen up in Tulsa this year with a larger river. The peak is not going to stick around for too long. The risk comes when water traveling at velocities. There's many times cars can be sucked away in water, people can be sucked away in water. That can cause injury and death. Floodwaters will also pick up any contaminants. So there is any sort of floodwater can contain manures or fertilizers. Sometimes in a little bit further south of here, fire ants are a large problem that congregate on top of the water. So there are certain issues, and we do recommend that when areas do flood, that people stay out of the water.
Okay. And then lastly, is there any particular area in McAlester that seems to be flooding more than another area that you've been able to determine?
Let me answer that the inverse. The very south end of the city at Dancing Rabbit Creek watershed and Tributary A watershed on the southeast side along the US 69 corridor. We did not find those areas to flood very many structures at all. In fact, it looked very promising. The rest of the city has a number of its own unique flooding problems that may need to be dealt with in the future.
Was Electric Avenue one of them, formerly Gene Stein Boulevard? Was that one of them?
The entire roadway there, or
Yes. Yes, the entire.
with the channel in the middle?
Yes.
So I think in recollection of the results there, we had a little bit of water come up and out of the channel in our final floodplain. I don't recall that. It's not really a large concern right there, although the piece of Electric Avenue where it ducks under the railroad, we do expect that to flood and will need to be closed unless a solution can be solved there. But
Because not only is there a problem with rain, also when it's ice and
yes,
snow, that really becomes a problem area. So is that considered part of the flooding project too? Dealing with ice, snow, sleet?
we did not consider any effects of ice or snow at this latitude. It can be very limited. It is possible that it could have an effect, that you could have an ice storm and then it warms up quickly in a rainstorm before the ice melts. I won't rule it out, but I don't think we've seen something like that before.
Okay. All right, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Councilman Pritchard?
I should know this, but how many total problem areas were identified?
20s.
27.
Well, that's how many solutions we took to the city. I'll give you an approximate number without having to look it up. It was somewhere around 45 or 50.
So I know on the prioritization list, there's 20, looks like there's 27. I didn't add it up, but so all because there's, plans in here, are the plans just for those 27 prioritization areas?
Yes, those cost estimates. The ones that are not listed are sometimes private problems. We did want to give a solution to anyone that brought forth an issue, just so they could have an idea of what direction they need to, of how to solve their problem.
Okay, so what I'm really asking is, does this list of 27 projects or problem areas, does this cover, aside from the private ones you just spoke about, does this cover all the concerns that were brought forward to the committee and to your firm?
Yes, it does.
Can you tell me a little bit about the score, the priority score, and how you weighted the different projects?
Yes. So we had to work with the city staff on that. And I want to state up front that this is a very generalized list. You do not have to follow it in order. What we did is we had several ranking criteria that we used on each project, and we would repeat those for each project. So we had our criteria range from, has this flooded problem persisted for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, more than 20 years? Has this flood problem killed someone? Has this flood problem, are you able to get funding for this flood problem in terms of a bond or a grant or something like that? And we would rank each of these problem areas with a score value of for each criteria, and that would help place the problem areas in this ranking that you see.
Well, so at the section 7 at the back here, 7.2, the prioritization criteria, I think there's 12 bullet points on there.
Yes.
Are those the factors you're talking about?
Yes, they are.
So are those 12 points, bullet points, are they weighted? How are they weighted in relation to each other?
It can vary. Obviously, there's certain criteria that we want to give more weight to. So like I mentioned, let's say a particular problem area has caused a death or injury or something like that. That's something we would want to give additional weight to. The city staff also had some input on how much weight needs to be applied to each criteria.
No, I have more questions.
Any other questions or comments? We'll take a motion and a second to accept master drainage plan. Motion, Councilman Reed, second, Councilwoman Harrison. Any further discussion? Corge, you call the roll, please.
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harrison,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're on to agenda item number 2. Consider and act upon an ordinance amending the general zoning ordinance and accompanying map thereto, known as general zoning ordinance number 1843, by changing the classification of the zoning districts for the southerly 135 feet of Lot 6 and Lot 294, City of McAlester, formerly known as South McAlester, Pittsburgh County, State of Oklahoma, from C2 Neighborhood Convenience District to C4 Restricted Commercial District. You're up.
Good evening, council. So this is a request. The applicant Petro's First Post, also represented by Mark Fields, who Mr. Fields and Mr. Cable are the landlords, the owners of the property. But they are requesting the zoning change from the C2 to C4. The McAlester Planning Commission met on September the 17th and unanimously voted 7 yes and 0 no to recommend that the applicant's rezoning request be approved. I would like to just go over a few things here. There were 26 notices sent out. 19 of those were received, so roughly about 73% of those were received by the surrounding property owners. There were 7 total that were either still out or were returned. However, staff had not received any written opposition or in favor of this applicant prior to the previous public meeting or this public meeting. There was one caller, Mr. Dolores Smith with the Grand Avenue Community Center, and my planning technician Samantha Perry spoke with her on the phone. Felt that the concerns were addressed. They were not available for the planning commission meeting. Mr. Cecil Lee, who lives across the street, he said in the meeting that he was not opposed. He just wanted to make sure that everything that the applicant was doing with the development of the property was done safely. But some of the concerns about the traffic were addressed during that meeting, and our commissioners, Golick, Moore, and Emmons felt that it would not change the traffic in the area. Washington is approximately 36 feet wide from curb to curb, and it is considered a collector street. And so there is considerable amount of traffic that's there already. So that they did not feel that rezoning would change. On the south side of Washington, there's already C4 that is there, and this property is C2, and they're just wanting to zone to the same of what is in the surrounding area so that they can develop their property as they wish. So, but also we do have the applicant available. I can answer a few questions if you have any.
We'll go with questions from the council first, and then we'll have I know we have some citizens here that signed up for this. This is the item you guys signed up for, isn't it? Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Councilman Brown.
Ms. Clifton, what are they gonna put, what are they wanting to put there?
Their plan is to put in a microbrewery, and we have visited with them, the community development department, as far as their plans, and they're able to meet all the requirements for screening and parking and so forth. There is some slope to the property. However, they can meet all those requirements. They have provided some kind of a site layout of what they were going to do. They did say that it was going to be a family friendly. So kind of keep in mind, kind of like a, I don't know. I know that we have another brew pub in town that it's also family friendly where, children come in or a family can come in, together. And, so I don't know. I guess that's kind of what their plan is for that. So.
Councilwoman Harrison.
Oh, okay. Well, of course, I have several concerns. I don't have any problem with a business coming in the area, but one of my concerns is that there is a community center that is across the street that has children. So I'll let the Grand Avenue people and whomever address that. Do you know the hours that this will be in operation, this business?
I don't have that answer, so I'm not sure that has that not been established.
It has not.
Okay.
The hours haven't, and then, it's okay to continue.
Yeah.
Also, when you say family friendly, we're talking about children as young as what, babies, whatever? What
Well,
do
I'm
they need?
assuming that if a family was to go to this, that they would be able to bring their children. So I
But
don't know
if
that there's a
isn't it
limit in
strictly
the
going to be
ages.
beer? It's not going to be a pizza place, right? Is it going to be food served?
It's beer, yeah.
Just strictly beer, but no food?
That's what I'm understanding.
That has not been fully decided at this point.
Oh, okay.
But
And,
Councilwoman, I think I can
I'm sorry.
give you a little bit of insight on that.
Yes, please.
As long as the bar area is completely,
Mhm.
there's a barrier between the bar area and the common area.
Right,
The common area can have families. The bar area obviously could.
right. I know in bigger cities, I've been in bigger cities. I've seen
And
that.
typically
But
in
this
a
is for the
zoning,
viewing audience.
typically in a zoning, we don't get too deep into the business model of it. We just look at the surrounding area, if it fits with the, the traffic and the, open space and so forth. We don't dive too deep into what the business is doing,
Okay.
just that it fits with the zoning in that area.
Okay. I would like, is it okay to, did the property owners meet with any of the people in the neighborhood to tell them what they were doing? Because there was an assumption it was going to be a different type of business. They didn't know. Do you know if that transpired?
I'm not aware that they did, but that's not a requirement.
Oh, okay, not a requirement. All right. And the other thing, are there any plans to purchase the property of the people that are on that street, going east? Any plans for that? Gentrification?
I'm not aware of that either.
Oh, okay. All right. Those are my questions at this time. Thank you.
Councilman Brown?
Now you send letters out, right, Jamie?
Yes, sir.
Everybody got letters in that area.
Yes, all 20, I
I
said there's
saw it.
26
Yeah.
within 300 feet of that property, which is required by our
By law.
codes.
By ordinance. Okay, and so.
Oh,
Go ahead, Ms. Harris.
Go ahead.
No.
Your show.
You go ahead and
No,
finish,
no,
Councilman
it's
Brown.
not my
Okay.
show. It's not.
I wanted to, so once there's no opposition to it, besides, you said one, they
We
call,
received
couple
a phone
calls?
call. However, there's not been any written opposition.
Okay, okay, all right, thank you.
Oh, okay. I kind of lost my train of thought for a minute. We had this conversation going back and forth. All right. Would there be a problem for it to be delayed in building this until the Grand Avenue completely move out? It's my understanding that they would like to move. Would there be a possibility that they can delay building until that center is completely removed with those children?
There's not any regulations or
Okay.
ordinance or provisions to that. It's just, like I said, it doesn't look at the business development specifically,
Okay.
just that they're trying to meet the zoning requirements to rezone in that area.
All right. Is there any reason that they picked that locale rather than in their own neighborhood?
I cannot answer
I
that.
guess the price was right then.
Mr.
All right. Okay. All right.
He's back there. The attorney.
Thank you.
Councilman Pritchard?
Why does it need to be rezoned?
I believe it's
Oh, okay.
for them to be able to develop and do, the type of use that they were wanting, that it was more appropriate to rezone it from the C2 to the C4.
Well, for the type of use they're planning, do you think they can do it in C2?
I believe that they can do it in C4. I know that in C2 that, there's liquor stores that are allowed, but it doesn't necessarily allow for like lodge halls or restaurants or anything like that. So we are purchasing consumables, we just kind of, felt that restaurant or the, that would fit better with what they're wanting to do.
I have another question. So, and I may be reading this wrong, but it looks like to me that you have to have 50,000 square feet to rezone to any commercial. Is that correct?
That is because it is adjoining C4 and it's been interpreted in the past. We have done rezonings in the past to where adjoining is considered across the street as well. So because they are adjoining that C4 to the south of them, then they don't have to meet that minimum 50,000 square feet to rezone.
You could though, in the C2 zoning, you could have a liquor store here, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else up here? All right, I know we had some citizens sign up. Ms. Smith, Ms. McElroy, you guys are up. If you would give your name and address.
Yes, I'm Dolores Smith, 1911 North 11th Street in McAlester, Oklahoma. I'm the director of Grand Avenue Community Center. I run the summer program, which is called Flyby Summer Program for Kids Activity Center. We bring in different organizations that come in to bring up to the kids to let them know what's out there. We have some of our kids, our parents are alcoholics. I'm just being honest. We said some of our kids are drugs, that their parents are on drugs. We have foster kids. We got kids from Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Texas, you name it. The problem that I'm having is our building is small, which we know that, but you're not giving us a chance to try to find a location. I go out there looking for buildings, and everybody think we should pay. Our kids are low income. They're not coming in with top dollar. Some of the parents has 5 kids, some kids, some of them have 4, and they single parents. I mean, they write single parents. I do volunteer at the library, and I also do volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club. But the thing about it, our kids are little. They are 4 and 5 on up. And to me, this is what's supposed to be helping us is our kids is going to be our future to run, our generation. So you're not giving us a chance. You're bringing it in. And I don't know how I'm going to explain it to the kids about, well, we're right across the street from a tavern. Your mom and dad can take you over there, pick you up. That's not good enough for us. You're not even giving us a chance. And that's my problem. We're not even got a chance to help the low income. And that's what it looked like to me. We low income, so you don't care. To me, McAlester don't seem like they like kids. That's low income. And I wasn't brought up like that. So that's my big concern about helping the kids. I know our program's only 8 weeks for the kids, but they have a safe environment. They get free breakfast, free lunch, free snacks. So what'll happen now when they find out that they can drink across the street, their parents can, and they can come over and pick them up? That's my concern. I'm not trying to stop them from building that, but you should help us. We need help, not downgrading because our kids are low income. That's my opinion.
Ms. McElroy, do you have anything to add?
Well, I have the same thing. I have a daycare, and I know if there was a brewer built across the street from my daycare, I would be definitely against that because, our responsibility is to take care of those kids. And like me, if a parent comes in there drunk, I cannot let that child go with the parent. I would not let that child go with that parent. I have to call the police to have them come and get the child. And I agree with Dolores. I would not, if their parent went over there and got drunk, I would not let those kids leave with their parents. And she don't charge you, she don't charge, and I help her on Saturdays or when she has the big event, my daycare will go up there and help her because there's a lot of the kids from my daycare go up there to the program. So, if we had the United Way building, and I went and checked on that. It's a big building. I mean, they said, but I went to the courthouse and it's in the United Way. They don't pay no taxes. They don't know who owns the building. It's still under United Way. And then there's a church there on Electric Street. We're trying to see about that church. But just like she said, we can't get no help. And there's little kids that comes from Third Ward, rides their little bikes all the way from Third Ward just so they can have a breakfast, a lunch, and a snack. You know, now, maybe y'all don't consider that, but I do because I've been in daycare for 48 years almost. And if there's a little child hungry, I'm going to make sure that child's fed. And those little kids mean a lot to me because when we had our party up there, every one of them come to us and thanked us for what we did because the bank donated us money. Taco place donated us stuff for those little kids to have a big group. And it was a nice deal for those little kids. And I do it again every weekend if that would. I mean, you should just seen their heart. I got a little bracelet from this little boy. Didn't even know the little boy. And he thanked me because I made him a hot dog. Just think, a little boy thanking me. And he gave me that bracelet just because I made him a hot dog because he didn't have no food to eat. You know, so.
Yeah, there's no doubt at all that what each of you guys do is a very good thing for the city of McAlester and great for the kids. The issue that I have is the business. It's kind of similar to what we had when the marijuana came down. We can't make a capricious decision to not do something because we might not like what that business is. We need to have a legal reason to not do that. And in this case, I don't think there is a legal.
Okay, what happens if the parent comes over there and they got their children and then they forget where the child is and the little child runs over there and that little kid gets hit? It's just right across the street.
But it's, it could be the same thing. What if a ball rolls out in the street and a kid runs out and gets it? I mean, you can't.
We don't let that allow.
What I'm saying is either one is as likely to happen as the
Right.
other. That kind of thing. So that's.
Like I said, we're not trying to put their business down.
Yeah.
We're just trying to find a different location, a safe environment. That's all we asking for. But every time I go, oh, it's 900, 2,000. I'm not going to charge these kids when their parents is barely making ends meet. You know, some of our kids is on DHS, and then I thought, wow. And DHS want them to be there because they know that we're secure. We have cameras in there. We want them to come in anytime and see what their kids doing.
Yeah.
I'm not downgrading the business that want to go across the street, but you should give us a chance. A chance. This has been 5 years. 0 accidents, 0 bulliness. And our camera shows that. Yeah.
Right. So what you're saying is you would like us to help you get it building. You don't mind it. This is.
No, I don't mind them moving in. I just give us a new location for our kids to be in a safe environment too. Like I said, I know everybody here got to kick it, drink it. I'm not into that. I'm into helping kids.
Yeah.
That's all I'm in for, to help kids. I get my blessing from God.
Okay. You
So
do know we're not giving them anything.
No, I know that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's all I'm asking. I'm just asking them just to help us relocate for the kids' sake. Not for me. We don't get paid. This is volunteer work. Yeah.
Well, we have worked together to
Right.
try to find things.
Right.
We haven't been able to find anything that works.
Right.
So I mean, we're not casting you aside. I hope you guys understand that, and I'm willing to help any way I can. We are limited in ways that we can help.
Right.
So that's something.
So that's why we have a free building that we're using now. So that's why I run the garage sale every weekend, because I want our kids to come back in the summer.
Yeah.
Without that running, we're nonprofit, we don't make a dime. All the money goes back into buying the glue, the glitter, buying extra snacks to keep them going. That's all I'm asking about. So
Yeah.
I'm not agreeing about they can't open up their business. Just give us a chance. That's all I'm asking about.
Mayor,
Councilor Brown.
first of all, I've been there, your building, and you guys have a great program. And as far as being concerned, I'm an orphan, and my parents were killed by a drunk driver, both of them. So I can identify with what you're saying. It's when I was growing up, we didn't have something like what you ladies have. So, and I've been one of those kids hustling in the mill. Sometimes I still have to do it, but I can't cook. But again, I do appreciate it in any way we can help. We've talked about the building. And when I went there, I said, I don't know how many kids you had that day. Some kid handed me something. I can't remember. But if we can help, And anyway, I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. But if I can help in any way with your program, I'm here. Now, for legally, that's where we have to go to the lawyer now. Can we actually stop this business from going in? I'm not sure. We'll have to get, have to get a legal opinion. And the lawyer's sitting there, and the mayor's pretty much kind of covered that. But if I may, Mayor, can I refer to the council?
Sure.
Sir, can we delay this action to allow them time? And I don't know how much time it'd take to get a building. You know, would there be a legal problem?
Well, I think, yes, I think there would be. You've already heard from the staff member who says that they comply with all the applicable statutes, so, or the ordinance, so, and the zoning commission has recommended the approval, so I don't know of any reason, legitimate reason that you would have
To stop it.
for delaying this.
Okay, thank you, Council.
Councilman Patterson.
I'm like Councilman Brown. I've attended the Grand Avenue. I've participated, and I know you're doing a great work. And like they said, that it's not that they're trying to stop the other business. They just need a delay long enough for them to be relocated. And if there's any way possible, if it be the heart of the landowners to put a delay, that would be great. But if we have to do it legally, I just want to let you know that that's what we would have to do. But that's not where my heart would be. My heart is with those little 4 and 5 year olds that don't have anything to eat. And thank you for the work you do.
Well, I don't think we have a legal reason that we can do that. And it's two completely different issues that are going on here. It's one, do we do rezoning for this? And two, do we help you guys? And we can do both. And I think I think the sense I get anyway is that we're willing to do both. So we gotta, as far as what you guys want, there's gotta be some kind of plan. There's gotta be something. It can't be just, well, what about this building? Because we can, we can't do that. I mean, all we can do is go talk to whoever owns the building and say, are you interested in selling it or whatever? And it would have to go, back to you guys. So it's two completely different issues. So
Well, now wait, the city did say that they would do the Army, over there at the Army plant.
right, because we own that.
Okay,
See, we don't have
All
to
right.
see.
Why can't we go ahead and, for now, why can't they go ahead and do that then?
I don't know why that fell through. So that would be something we'll have to look at.
Mayor, I could speak to that. That building, the roof's falling in on it. The electrical it's got problems in it. The heating and air conditioning units are not available. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars to put that building back together. Even the walls are deteriorating on that building. It's become to the point where it is dilapidated.
Okay, yeah. Just step up to the microphone, give your name and address.
Tiara, I live at 34 East Madison. I know exactly what they're talking about. I do believe that I do understand your concern. I also believe that we do need to bring more businesses and get our city a little bit more, a little bit more exciting to come to. I don't like Councilman Pritchard. Am I saying it right? I don't really understand why they would want to build right there, because I'm trying to figure out if I understand that that's zoning business, but are we eventually gonna open that all up into something like that? Or if maybe if the business that's trying to go there, maybe you can talk with whoever's owning that business. And if you can't move, maybe we can come together and figure out a way. Maybe they can build a fence around your property, or maybe they can donate that money or help raise that money to donate the fence around that property to keep those kids safe. Because I completely understand where you're coming from, but also I'm kind of young, still kind of want to party a little bit. So I completely understand both sides of the story. And my oldest, not my oldest, but my kids go there and actually volunteer at our place. So I understand where they're coming from. I would hate for them not to have a place, and then we find somewhere, I guess, trying to find like somewhere where we have to charge little kids. I don't want to do that, but if there's a way that you guys can meet in the middle, would you guys be interested in hearing and sitting down? Maybe you guys, they can come together, do a fence, anything, a barrier to make it stop, make it to where they can't see that or run out into a street or worry about a drunk driver hitting them or anything like that. I think I just wanted to say that. That's it.
Yeah, and it's, that's a private enterprise thing between the two parties. That wouldn't be the city involvement in it. I do know at least one of the people that's involved in this, and it's a very community-minded person. So I am positive that they would do their best to be good neighbors.
Mayor, can we hear from Mr. Fields?
If he would like to address this.
Mr.
May
Fields?
I ask one question before?
Yes.
May I ask to Mrs. Clifton, will the property value surrounding that area increase because there will be a business there?
I have no way of determining that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fields? Oh, Councilman.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm back on the C2 versus C4 thing. Aside from the different uses that are permitted by the two different districts, are there other differences? Their parking requirements or their area, frontage setback requirements between C2 and C4?
They are, and we have reviewed it, and they felt that they could meet those requirements for the frontage and the parking, the off-street parking requirements. We've already brought that to their attention when they told us that they were wanting to do the project, so they felt that they could meet those requirements. Again, when we look at rezoning, we don't try to get, we try not to get too much into the specifics of what the business is doing, but we do advise them ahead of time, hey, if you're wanting to put this in, then these are the things that you need to look at.
So the parking is different for these two different classes?
No, the parking is usually based on the use.
Okay.
And we guided them basically because they would have seating areas. We kind of felt that was closer aligned to the restaurant kind of side of things. Again, we talk about this often about how our land development code is very dated. Some of those uses are, we didn't have microbreweries or brew pubs or anything like that, when this code was written. So we have to kind of be just a little bit creative and try to fit these in those specified uses.
This is a comment, not a question. I really want this to be C2 because C2 is the neighborhood convenience district.
Mhm.
And I can't think of anything better than like having a neighborhood brewery. Like that's the whole idea is like people come, they get their beer, but they also get their community. And I don't want to restrict. I personally want this and other uses to be allowed in C2. And so that's why I keep asking you these questions, is because I want to take this view of C2 as this is going to be something we do, for the surrounding areas, and not just this one, but the other districts around town that are in C2. So again, it's not a question, just a comment.
Mr. Fields?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can you heard it all,
Yes, sir.
and you're representing the business, right? Oh, go ahead and introduce you, Mr. Fields.
Yeah, my name is Mark Fields. Yes, sir.
And he's the attorney for the.
I am an attorney. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can you heard it all, like I said, and is there any way that you guys might can kind of come together here and work something out that's going to be workable for your clients? And
I don't see any reason that I can't talk to anybody about anything. I certainly can't stand here tonight and say, yes, A, B, and C can be done. My understanding, on the zoning is C4 is across the street already. This is C2. It's already commercial. Changing to the same zoning that already exists across the street as C4 seems like a simple thing to do.
so the doctor's building is across the street pretty much. Am I right or am I in the wrong?
Across the street.
Well, the
Where are you gonna put it?
Your block off.
Okay, a block off. Okay. Okay.
but I'm more than happy to talk to any surrounding landowner about anything. There was, I personally talked to Mr. Cecil Lee at the planning and zoning meeting. We had a discussion about the area and being good neighbors. I'm happy to speak with anybody about the issue. I'm not sure, frankly, that this lot where we're going to build, if they're moving, it seems like two separate situations that we're talking about. Changing the zoning from C2 to C4 versus what's going to happen to the children at Grand Avenue and needing, based on what I could gather, more space or a different area for them. I'm not sure the two issues are the same. I don't understand when the proposed move is going to be. It sounds like they're working in conjunction with the city on finding a new property. I don't think there's anything I can do to assist in that. That sounds like a city and Grand Avenue issue to work out.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you an attorney for the property owners or are you one of the property owners?
I am an attorney and will be one of the property owners.
So you're both?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, all right, I see.
Any other questions?
Oh, well, one last. So legally, it's okay to address council. Legally, this is something, everything is already in place for it to legally be changed from 2 to 4. Is this what we're talking about?
That's the planning
Okay.
commission and
So-
staff's determination.
All right. So secondly, it's up to maybe those two, the owners and Grand Avenue to possibly get together. Maybe the city can help find a building and they can go from there. Is this what we're saying? I just want to be clear to the viewing audience and to myself. Is that where we are?
Ms. Harrison, and I think you have a long history of, if we're taking a vote, I vote for you to head this city effort.
Well, thank you, sir.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes, if that, I have no choice.
Richard,
No.
Brown,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We're on to agenda item number 3, consider an act upon authorizing the city manager to accept a grant award from fiscal year 19, from FY19 body worn camera policy implementation program in the amount of $46,733 for city of McAlester. Who gets this one? Mr. Stasia?
Stephanie, are you going to address this?
While she's coming up, Councilwoman. While she's coming up.
There's no way to change our vote once we've done it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
You'd have to go.
What I have before you this evening is consideration of a grant opportunity that's been extended to us from the Department of Justice to expand our body worn camera program. It is a grant in the amount of $46,733, which the city will match dollar for dollar with our own contribution of $46,789, and we will implement this program within the next 2 years. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the opportunity.
Any questions on the?
Yeah, I got
Councilman Reed?
Mr. Stasiak, what's been the success of the current cameras that the officers been wearing?
The current cameras are about 3 years old, I believe now. They are wearing out. They're 5 years old
They
now.
are 5 years old.
They are wearing out. They do have a lot of maintenance issues with them, battery issues with them.
Well, I guess my question is are we getting a benefit out of that? Or is the benefit for the defense attorneys?
Well, I'll have the chief answer that question if you don't mind.
Councilman, I would say the body cameras have been a resounding success. I think they have reduced, I know they've reduced our complaints. Anytime we have a complaint, we have to look at it and try to determine whether the complainant or the officer is at fault. And before the body cameras, we always got into and I hope I can say this right. He said, she said, and I keep wanting to say she shed, but anyway, it has reduced our complaints, and the complaints that we do have, it has caused them to be satisfied in a much more timely manner. The cameras are, I'm sorry, go ahead.
How much time is spent responding to open records requests from attorneys, media, things like that for these body camera footage?
I can tell you that for the police department, the deputy chief is one that's normally assigned to record off the body camera footage, and he can do it while he's doing his other office chores. The lengthy part of the process would be when the paralegal gets it and has to redact the information. I'm not sure how long it takes. She has a program to do that. I can't give you an answer as to exactly how long it takes her to do that.
Approximately how often do we get these requests?
It seems to vary. It seems to run in surges. I would say the city clerk could answer this maybe better than I, because she deals with the paperwork all the time. But I would say once a week, twice a week sometimes.
So would you say it's pretty routine for the attorneys here in town to request this footage?
It is. They seem to do it more when we first got the body cameras, and now they seem to be picking and choosing a little bit more so into which cases they request. So it's a lesson from the first year.
So the benefit to the city is, in your opinion, it helps to resolve complaints against officers.
It helps to resolve complaints against officers. It gives evidence in criminal trials that the district attorney frequently uses. And I will tell you quite frankly, when the officer knows they're on camera, and I'm considered a very even-tempered officer, but I will tell you, knowing that I'm on camera, I'm probably going to act even better. I think it reduces use of force issues.
Would you say that hurts or helps? That somebody may not do something because that maybe puts their life at risk because they're on camera?
That would be one concern you would have, but I think it helps. You know, we just had a major de-escalation training by officers, and especially the older officers were concerned that doing something like this would cause the officers to shirk away from using force and put themselves in danger. But even the older ones came out of the class and said, yeah, this is the way we need to be doing things. I think that body cameras cause the citizens to act better, and I think they cause the officers to act better, more professionally.
I don't know. I just have a problem with having a nanny cam on every officer. If we can't trust our officers, then maybe we're not doing the right selection.
I think that in this day and time that the citizens expect video footage of incidents, especially that it's been established that it's available now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chief, has it cut?
Councilman?
Has it cut down on lawsuits
Oh, yes,
by having the cameras, pretty much?
certainly. As a matter of fact, when we initially got the body cameras, OMAG was one of the funders of a grant specifically for that. As a matter of fact, I brought up the idea to OMAG, and they liked it so much they have used it all over the state now.
And the audio is pretty clear, visual. Somebody is doing something, or even if the officer is doing something or saying something to the citizen, everybody can hear it. Everybody, the car, and you guys can hear it if you ask for the video.
You know, the body cameras aren't perfect. First off, this was kind of the ones we're using now are kind of first generation. I know they've been around for quite a few years, but I would consider them first generation. Sometimes the video is not as clear as we would like. Sometimes the audio is not as clear as we would like, but it is available. You can see, you can listen to it. Now, what we're looking at now with this Department of Justice grant is upgrading to even better cameras, work better in low light situations, and would be higher definition cameras.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilman Harrison.
So basically, you're wanting to, us to accept your grant award, is what you're saying? All right. My question is, tell us about redacting. What is that about?
Redacting is when you go to the video, you use a program to erase certain information that is inappropriate or not allowed to be put out. It might be like a juvenile. It might be like nudity. In certain cases, it would be a dead body. So there are various different things, certain information that might be on the body camera when the officer's talking to somebody. It might be inappropriate to release that information.
Now, who does the redacting? Does it come from the courthouse? Does it come from DA? Does it come from
The
who does that? Who's
the
responsible?
paralegal that works for the Irvins, or works for the city of McAlester in conjunction with the Irvins, the city attorney. And she works under their instruction as far as the rules and the Open Records Act goes.
All right. So what statutes are they looking at when they're redacting? Are they looking at, well, nudity, take that out, profanity? I mean, what?
There are specific rules in the Oklahoma state statutes that relate to this.
So it's Oklahoma state statutes?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Just one quick one. In your opinion, these protect the officers as well from unfounded allegations, I guess.
Short answer is yes. I would like to add that the officers were very concerned when we first started talking about body cameras because, as Councilman Reed expressed, having a nanny cam on you all the time is a little bit disconcerting. But now the vast majority of the officers prefer to have the body cameras.
One last time, any questions or comments? Take a motion in a sec. Is that a motion? Motion, Councilman Pritchard, second Councilman Brown. Any further discussion? Corge, you call the roll, please.
Councilman Pritchard,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. Thank you. We're on to agenda item number 4, consider and act upon accepting the bid amount of $49,475 from Built Right Construction LLC and authorize the mayor to sign a notice of award for Fifth and Miami Sewer Improvements Project. Mr. Bond.
Mayor, council, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. Hopefully a fairly routine moving forward. Bids were received on the project, and I do apologize. The bid tabulation got mixed up, so it got put on your seat tonight as a handout. 3 bids were received on the project on September 26th. The low bidder was Bill Wright Construction, in the amount of $49,475, followed by a $60,000 bid and a $104,000 bid. We recommend that the council award the bid to Bill Wright Construction in the amount of $49,475.
It's quite a spread. Councilman Pritchard?
It is. I'm sorry, I have one quick question. I should have looked. Has this project gotten cheaper? Do you remember?
It came in under budget.
It did. How much what were you?
I think we initially
do you
estimated
have
about
a-
80,000 on construction. It came in better than expected for the good of the city.
Good. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments?
I'll take
Take a motion in a second. Motion, Councilman Reed, second Councilwoman Harrison. Any further discussion? Corge, you call the roll, please.
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harrison,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 5, consider and act upon an ordinance amending ordinance number 2656, which established the budget for fiscal year 2019-2020, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for severability clause, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Stasiak.
Mayor, members of the council, first thing I want to do is hand you out a new sheet for the budget amendment. The only change to this budget amendment, if you look at the A1 budget amendment in your packet, at the top it says budget amendment fiscal year 2019-2020. It says tourism fund. This is not coming from the tourism fund. The one I've handed you comes from the general fund. This is an appropriation for workman's comp in our patrol division. This is due to a settlement that was previously discussed with the council, and now we are appropriating the funds to go ahead and pay that settlement. So we are asking that you approve the transfer along with an emergency clause.
Are there any questions? I'd like to take a motion in a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Reed. I'll second it. Any further discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. This does have an an emergency with it, so I need a motion in a second on the emergency. Motion, Councilman Smith, or Councilman Reed, sorry. Second, Councilman Brown. Any further discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. On to agenda item number 6, consider an act. Nearly made it. Consider an act upon to authorize the mayor to accept and sign state contract number 0-5137 for a period of 1 year for the supplies, pavement marking, traffic striping services of city streets pursuant to section 2-275 of McAlester City Code. Is this yours, Mr. Stacy?
It is. Mayor, members of the council, this was a project that I asked our special projects engineer, George Marcangeli. This would be phase 4 of the process that we've been going through to have our streets striped. This is based on traffic flows and also the size of the streets. As you can see, back in 2006, if you look at the map that's attached on the last page of your handout, it'll show you the streets that were striped in yellow in June of 2016. We did another project, the green streets, in 11 of 16. Phase 3 was our blue, the dark blue. That was done in March of 17. What we're asking for tonight is approval to stripe the areas in, I guess it's red. That would be the proposed striping along with 2 bike routes for the city of McAlester. The estimated cost based on the state contract bid is $63,664. We feel, Mayor and Council, that this will be the last striping program for the city. What we will be doing in the future is going back as these streets start deteriorating and doing maintenance on them. So the good news is we've got everything almost striped what we need to have striped. Now we need to do maintenance in the future as these lines start coming off and as they start fading. So it's a project we started 3 years ago.
Any questions or comments? Take a motion in a second. Motion, Councilman Reed. Second, Councilman Brown. Any further discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. On to agenda item number 7. Consider and act upon a resolution to rename a public facility commonly known as B and Jefferson Park to Leadership Park and authorizing the mayor to sign the resolution. Ms. Clifton.
Hello again. So the applicants, McAlester Area Chamber of Commerce and Leadership McAlester, is requesting that this facility be renamed to Leadership Park. Leadership McAlester does have a community service project plan for this park that they're going to, they've raised most of the funds and have plans to include a splash pad and improve the public facilities in this park. But staff has been able to locate any name for the park other than it being commonly known as B and Jefferson Park. So I kind of jokingly said this is sort of the park with no name. It was deeded over to the city 71 years ago, and it doesn't have an official name. And so this is kind of a plan of Leadership McAlester to finally give this park a name and make some improvements to it. It is a technical requirement that when you name a public facility that it goes to the Planning Commission. There's some notice requirements, and so all those requirements were met, and the Planning Commission decided at their September 17th meeting to approve the application, and they made that recommendation to the City Council, and we just ask that you approve the resolution.
Any questions? Councilman Pritchard.
I'll make a motion we rename the park.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Okay, second, Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Just got one. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name because you came up with the park with no name. It's gonna be stuck in my head the rest of this dang meeting.
You don't want me talking about it.
I did. Well, she caused it. Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Pritchard,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
We're on to agenda item number 8. Consider and act upon authorizing the city manager to accept a grant award from the Oklahoma Highway Safety Office in the amount of $44,000 to implement McAlester Impaired Driving Enforcement Program.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Happy to be back up for a second time this evening. We are presenting this evening a grant from the Oklahoma State Highway Office. This is an annual grant that we enjoy, and they set the priority. So every year, Richard Parker, a lieutenant of ours at the police department, couldn't be here this evening, but he is the one who writes, administers, and reports on this grant. And so in a perfect world, we would have more officers like this that could implement these programs. So it is staff recommendation that we accept and implement the program. The grant is $44,000 and requires no matching on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Pritchard?
I'll make another motion that we accept this.
You got a date? Is there a second? Councilwoman Harrison, any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Pritchard,
Yes.
Councilwoman Harrison,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to new business. Any matter not known which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of posting the agenda in accordance with Section 311.9, Title 25 Oklahoma State statutes. Do we have any new business?
We do not, Mayor.
And we will move to city manager's report.
I think your cough
It's
left you and jumped over to me.
I'm happy to give it to anybody. Just give it away. Get it off me.
Mayor, members of the council, wanted to bring you up to speed on the water line break on the line, the 12-inch water line that went out to the Stephen Taylor Industrial Park. As you're aware, that was located underneath a swamp. We were not able to visibly look at that line. The way that we were able to figure out that it was under the swamp, so we were able to turn off that line. The water quit flowing in the ditch, and when we turned it back on, it started flowing again. So it was kind of a hit and miss thing. In order to fix this thing, you really couldn't get back in there. It was a very, very difficult situation. That swamp was 450 feet across. And in order to solve this problem, Bates Instrumentation, who jumped right on this, and I've got to give them all the credit in the world, had to weld 720 feet of pipe together in order to be able to grab the end of it and pull it across that swamp and then tie it into the existing line. They did that very, very successfully. It has solved the problem. The line has now been energized and is up and running and doing exactly what we expected to do. So we have eliminated that problem. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, which made this break even more difficult, was when this started occurring over the weekend, 4 days prior to that break happening, we had a lightning storm here in town. That lightning storm took out our entire SCADA system out at the water plant. Our SCADA system is what reads all of the tanks in town and is a computer-driven program that can tell us exactly what the levels are in those tanks, so we don't have to go out and physically look at them. By the time that we realized that we were losing water in the city and went out and physically looked at all these tanks, we realized that we were very quickly getting into trouble. If that SCADA system would have been up and running, alarms would have been set off as soon as we started losing water and water pressure in those tanks. So it was kind of a culmination of different things happening, but that SCADA system is vital to that water plant and us and our ability to monitor those tanks inside the city. That system has now been repaired, and we will be turning in a claim to our insurance company. The other project I wanted to bring you up to speed on is A in Peoria. We had a bypass going on down there. We had a sewer problem that was overflowing in a manhole. This had been going on for several days. We had taken our equipment to the downstream manhole, tried to come back up towards A Street. And once we got close to the A Street intersection, we were engaged in, or we came into an obstruction. Our equipment allows us to shoot a very fine jet stream, which sometimes allows us to be able to break up root balls, problems that might be in those pipes. We could not break this up. After trying that for several days, we finally brought in a company out of Tulsa who had a cutter that came back up into the pipe. They got into about the same area, could not break through it. We didn't know if we had a collapse in the bottom of the manhole or whether or not we had a very large root ball that we couldn't get through, but everything had stopped up and there was nothing that we could do to get through it. We brought in Bates Instrumentation again. They had just finished out there on the water line break. We had them dig up the entire street in order to get down to the bottom of this manhole. This manhole's 15 feet deep, so you can't look into the bottom of it. You can't see what's in the bottom. It was a brick manhole, a brick design manhole. It was our impression that it probably collapsed in the bottom, and that's what was obstructing everything. Well, lo and behold, we built Bates Instrumentation built a bypass. We got all of the water and the sewage off the manhole, drained the manhole, and in the bottom of the manhole that releases into the 15-inch pipe was a huge root ball. But the interesting thing about it was what was inside the root ball was a street cone. Evidently, a street cone got into our system, got into the pipe, got wedged into the pipe, and over time, this root ball formed around it, finally sealed off the entire pipe. The reason I bring this up is because we have a tremendous amount of time into this for a traffic cone, and this is probably about a $25,000 hole, all due to a traffic cone in our system. So we don't know how it got there. We don't know if somebody threw it in there, whether or not, just what happened. But it was very expensive fix, and also just the cleanup from that bypass has been a tremendous undertaking. Good news is we have solved the problem. They're putting the pipe back together. We'll be rebuilding the street over the next couple of days, and we'll have traffic back on it next week. On October the 22nd, which is our next council agenda, we're going to be bringing our action items forward on the comp plan. The staff has identified 12 action plans. We have pared that down into what we consider to be the 6 top action plans that we want to address with the city. We're going to bring those forward with you and hopefully get your concurrence. But we're going to start working that comprehensive plan and start working those plans moving forward and start making these improvements to the city. So we'll be making that presentation on October the 22nd. Mayor, that's all I have.
We'll move to remarks and inquiries by council. Councilman Reed.
Mayor, I'd just like to pass on to Mr. Stasiak my appreciation for all the city employees that were involved with that water line break and also the sewer line stoppage. You know, it always amazes me that what our city employees do with the limited number of resources we have, the limited number of people we have, but yet they're always out there every day doing whatever needs to get done, getting that water going, getting those sewer lines on stop, fixing these breakages all over town. And we don't have 100 people doing it, you know, but those employees are willing to get out there all at night, freezing cold, in the rain, whatever it takes to get this done and get the city back up on its feet. And I really appreciate it.
They appreciate you recognizing that. Thank you.
Councilman Brown.
I'm going to pick up on that as well. I see them out all hours of the night because I'm out all hours of the night. So, and they are working. Nobody's standing around. And when there's something major going on, they're taking care of business. And, you know, I appreciate it. Also, Mayor, I wanted to mention, this is not pertaining to the city now, the student government, you know how we did it last year. I hope that we can look at doing that again this year.
I am going to actually put you in charge of getting that set up.
Okay, well, the kid's already asking about it.
Yeah, well, I talked to Mr. Hampton about it a while back, and they're interested in doing it. So we just got to get a day.
Okay, okay.
So since you see them often,
I'm
see if they can pick a couple days, and we
Okay,
can see
Mayor.
which one will work best for both entities.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Sure, appreciate it. Councilwoman Harrison.
All right. This may be a highly unusual request, but is there any way that I could change my vote?
You would need to ask the city attorney that.
Would I ask him now?
Yes.
This would be for item number 2 pertaining to the zoning, the rezoning.
Well,
I voted yes.
You would have to reconsider the vote. I think you're still in time, but you would have to ask for a motion to reconsider the vote.
Okay.
That motion would have to have a second and pass. And then you would have to ask for a motion to revert to that order of business
Okay.
where the vote took place. And then that motion would have to have a second.
All right. Well, tell me how I do
And then
that.
would have to pass. And then you would be back to the item that the vote was taken on. And then you would ask the chair to take a vote.
Okay.
And the motion would have to be remade and seconded, and then another vote taken.
Okay.
So, yes, you could, it is conceivable that it is possible to do that,
Okay.
but it would be after 3 motions and 3 seconds and successful vote on each motion.
All right. Well, how would I go about doing that? I would like to do that.
Well,
Would I have to wait for another
I
meeting?
would say that you would, no,
Okay.
you can do that now.
Okay.
You can ask, or you can make a motion to reconsider the vote. And then you would have to reconvene the order of business, revert the order of business to that item, and then you would have to take a motion to vote on that item.
All right.
So it would take, but you can go ahead and make the motion
Mhm.
to reconsider the vote
All right. How would I go about doing that?
right now.
All right. So what wording would I use to say I'd like to make a motion
You
for
can
us to
make a motion
reconsider?
to the chair if he recognizes you for that motion.
All right. I would like to
Make a motion to reconsider the vote. And you may want to refer to that item.
Okay. All right. I would like to make a motion to reconsider item number 2, ordinance. Do I have to read the whole thing?
No, I think as long as you
On the
you've
rezoning?
identified the item.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? There is no second. Motion dies for lack of a second.
Okay, all right. But I did want to let you know that was my consideration to revote. But no, all right. On my announcements, there are several awareness activities that are going on this month. We have, of course, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that's why we have pink on. Domestic Violence Awareness, which is also in October. Fire prevention, a lot of activities of Fire Prevention Month. I believe it's also Disability Awareness Month. And of course, Make a Difference Day is Saturday, October the 26th. Volunteers will meet at the Boys and Girls Club. I am having a come and go with the councilwoman at TJ's 3410 North Main on this Saturday, October the 12th. And my guest will be Mayor John Brown of McAlester.
Thank you for the formality on that.
Wow, I'm going.
Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't bring in the whole city, I don't think anything will.
I'm gonna go get a babysitter.
City manager, where are the trees going in on the streetscape?
Not till February or March. Nothing can be planted until then.
Is there a date for groundbreaking on the 14th Street project?
Not yet. They have asked for our invitee list.
Thank you. That's all I have.
We own it.
We're on to mayor's comments and committee appointments.
I think you're
We had a lead committee meeting today that we talked in depth about the collateral agreement that was came up while I was gone. Not specific to that particular one, but to the overall program, and got a lot of good input from the people that were there, and we're going to continue working on that to come up with a program that covers all of the angles of it that we can come up with. And I just wanted to thank the members of that committee for taking the time to come to meet today, and thank Mr. Ridenhour for putting up with me while I'm jumping all over his program. And the other thing is, as Mr. Reed said about thanking the city employees, they do an incredible job. I also want to thank the public, because we had a very trying time going on, and we had very good response from the public. There was good communication between the city, the public. Everybody knew what was going on. A lot of that has to do with our public information officer getting the word out. And I'm a big believer in the more information we can give when something like that's going on, the smoother the process is. Everybody knows, it's definitely it's a hindrance when people don't have water, but if they understand why they don't have it and that work is being done on it, it makes it a lot more tolerable. And it went as well as could have been expected, or actually better than could be expected. And I was very happy how that came out. So that we will recess the city council meeting, and I would take a motion to convene as McAlester Airport Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from September 24th, 2019, regular meeting of McAlester Airport Authority. Confirm action taken on city council agenda item B, and to adjourn.
So
Motion, Councilman Reed, second Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Corge, call it roll, please.
Councilman Reed?
Yes.
Brown?
yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. Now take a motion to convene as McAlester Public Works Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from September 24th, 2019, regular meeting of McAlester Public Works Authority. Confirm action taken on city council agenda item B, D, F, 1, 4, and 6. And to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Reed, second Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We'll now reconvene as the city council. I take a motion to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Reed, second Councilman Pritchard. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Councilman Reed. Don't forget to send me selfies.